Hello, I'm doing a short segment on how I'm going to make this area look a little bit better. So recently I was watching the Death Note thing, so I see this and I feel this folder really makes this dark Argentine color helps out with the whole vampiric look. I have like some of these weird habits where I put something to where I prove the notoriety of the points that I don't get, and for the progress that we've made or what we've not made, for that to be ours that we did make. I wanted to say that you know the that I had gotten where the Bernstein Law Group was not willing to help out with the 410 case about decentralized exchange, showing that it's not willing to profit, that the battery of using something that was, personal, and the last thing that you said was incriminating to the person and was not for what it intended to be. That cryptocurrency was a claim of not an exchange of money. What else? Just a whole bunch of things that the Farm Bureau Insurance said that they were taking, or that they had brought the letter on the other month ago. No, not a month ago. It was 2022 9/25, I think, or 27, that the mail had appeared to say that there was proof on that after an interjection where I had stopped into KJ Winstrom on North Peck Street, where they had tried to get back to me to say by the point there's a substantiary of about 27 crimes, criminal crimes, of course, on an itinerary of, everything on the list where I was accused of not paying. So where I had called Captain Tim, and Captain Tim had not gotten into contact with me, but somebody else did, and said that it was a liable thing, which that from that area, from the north area. So we wait at this time. I'm subject at work to all kinds of Bernstein Law advertisement, and I'm being, for what it's seen and what I've seen on the recording of the last video, subjected to the processing and data lecture of what that means, and that it's subject to something, whatever that means, to that secondary entity, unless that is just a perspective. On that, to the chain of what is unknown to what we do know, that those things were through. It was asked to see it that way. The data was not that. The personality of the email was 56, and it was not the correct person. The 22, or Captain 20, did seem like they were on that one, and on from what there were interested. It does not seem that ND was not interested in getting this one. And I had created a profile and said, I'm looking at a person who's, probably finds the sophistication of like doctor's vice, etc., in secretary, in a life that was kind of petite, from Hannah Montana to whatever agent would provide that, eliciting to that, versus the detour on a more of a hillbilly born and raised style, which attractive boys can appear from too. So I don't understand what the deal is. So I said all that, and I figured that was going to go good for them. I mean, make a deal with me in conversion for me trading out pretty much the presumptions of what the preferences would be, and that deal would eliminate the what the connection to the prince of all those, Khmer Rouge type styles of coy Asians or whatever that was to be depicted by my just helping saying what is the connection between the real prints of the numbers that are said on the banister of the Stranger Things in comparison to the banner at the time of what the ones that I had made at that time, to whether the circular is of the social work or that the actual one that is box office has the numbers and those details to do a percent claim comparison on the invasion of Failure Family and the suggestive ending and upholstery to what you confirm as a signature on what was self-solicited for what you had subjected to yourself. And looking at the videos, I see a dead grandma, which you are playing with, and I see a dead body. I see that the story is not linear. I don't see a good understanding of brain synchronization. I see an observation of it, and it's that the threats to what was adorned, to the special advertisements to what they had received, were appreciated. And I don't expect to go beyond what I said. And then I am trying to combat and connect that story to what was stopped, which I will later talk about as the 21, 22, 23 situation. You have the option of a 21. You are doing something to negatively impact or deduct something that you claim as an F. Or a 22. You had somehow created a stop and you have no explanation on what you're doing in the network of whatever you're doing. Or 23. This is a progression to something that I am doing, and this is that thing that I am doing. So we look at all those ones, and a lot of these injunctions of what happened in real time do not have an explanation. So yeah, that is what I was hoping for. I wasn't asking if that person was in escort or fatigue or whatever. I said whatever. Live your life. I don't need to live in these regressions. So that's my statement. And yeah, what a good connection. A complete thing, somebody who could, yeah, that I'm pretty much just gonna end that right there. And then we have that one, and then what else? It's the non-obligated and the extenuary of what a server to connected to the ability to live those things, and a challenge of what was said was kind of how we went about that. And we've had somebody using data items on whatever perhaps of the physiology of how they created a system of what was running on their server apprehend something on something else. So I am just, I'm really good at my investigations. You fell into a trap. That thing was elicited into, by sending the message on that confirmer, and those were a confirmation to those orders to something that would be paid for or in negotiation to the parties that were at 22 to say that they were not interested at the time of Daring Infamous saying making an investment from 2020 to March to whatever time for the 7 months or more that were like that for the missing amount of money and the derogative of the amount of information that was personalized from our supervisor at CSM at that time to know the exact amount of money to say that they were in claim talking to mother who had said something that was over the extenuary of the ability for them to see the calculus of what they were doing with their own life to have the inability to say that they adult the amount of times to advocate for themselves in their own way to find themselves to do short puts for me to understand what that is, whether or not I was leaving human interjection, which was at the mercy of a health system operated machine learning defense mechanism, which would be activated by making dumb health decisions. That was in contrast to a Cisco claim which was spoken out loud through the West Michigan area, or Michigan area if it was ever intended on a body, of the people who had used the Cisco thing in the thing of what a Bonnie-like figure or purple figure had said out loud to say the suggestive of intimidation derogative to an intended, equal, orderly, official, officered, said, suggested, spoken, restraining order 2-5, which was suggested. To say, when I go look through the security system to find anything that personality is BR10 or anything in the paraphernalia of what's suggested as what is allowed is not allowed and would be the context of battery, conspiracy of anything intended at target. I mean, there are a lot of things. I know how to write this in my favor, and I know how to get what I want. And I will get what I want. I'm 25 years old. That's way too old. These people don't make sense. It's not contextual. It's not an explanation for the person who was administering the relationship to say so, and it's not appropriate to elicit yourself by having the same customer service at Zealand Spectrum to be Michelle and have Nancy McCleary find that associative to what you had seen between Darian and Dietrich to make that a preliminary story of two people who live their own lives, to say that was not contending with somebody who had an affair with somebody of the idea of what they said for an amount of time so ravine that it is disconnected with what could be brain synchronization or whatever the gesture to equal as something or some programmer who says for someone's convenience in theoretical sitting to leave things like virtual crap in other people's area. You will have a statement and you will say what you have going on. Then I am the one who has a problem, and then the only person who has the ability to edit in that form at that time on that sliver of that pie. Yeah, I will make a comparison as somebody on that wheel to them watching it. In any time of just imagining somebody's perspective to what each person would see. It's the interior, what is the international print of the show versus the number in the interior and what is being suggested. Because the social services within that time are different from the ones without. And I will fix everything, and there will be a conference room and stuff, and I know how to do interior design, and we're still talking about how the medical had used things in that terminology to say something. That you had used something within the time that an accidental Skyview arcane map, which not even to a choice or switch with location map, that you had from that time from him calling Bernstein Law had put somebody foreign and who was out there. And then we're going to look at the echoes list on the context of all the names that we have on that one: Kristina Rushyanova, Adam Shashin, Kasim Zayat. If we look at the word Kasim Zayat, we can see that this is associated to something that is like a gem. So, seeing this perspective on what it is, a signature for something to be removed or stay has to be done like this. It has to have a full signature. It has to be explained why you do not know the reaction of why something did or did happen, because they would be responsible for, in that moment, what happened to themselves, or how you thought that you felt that you had served that to somebody by suggesting that I do not do that thing, which means that you were in the conspiracy of soliciting and allowing for whatever idea, for whatever you wanted, but any way that you say it would not be in your favor. That is the defense of pretend Darien attorney, and I will defend myself, and you cannot live in the level of hostility that, given the permissible that you would be upon to what you would say, to not listen to the option of what is mutual. You are gonna listen, and somebody should help them out. This is like a chain of so many people, so many calls on what is reactive, what is the point, what is not on crutch, what is the recommendation, take back the deno on anything of the actions I would have taken that time, and just to have what? Mind your space. If anything, nobody is obligated for that time for you to estimate the monetary value when I had just told you, saying that the amount for my supervisor to say the amount of my house, or Kevin J. Winstrom to say the amount of what was gestured and try to recommend that, and then make the claim that anything that is claimed to have happened would not be the extent of what would happen at the court case, if that is where that was, to say something, to put the words that were said for the inability, if and personality for things that are just fact, to be that difficult for him to be able to call Darien an Artar from Darien. Is there any explanation? It will go like this. I'm going to hold on to time, or the 22 of the point that you are explaining to me on the behalf of what you're not doing onto me, to the theoretical finding of the security data estimate of failure family, or the three memorized numbers on my person or unit that I will use to detect the metered attacks on my person to create that animacy. Then I'll establish the root or reason why somebody was able to steal the amount of personality, to use that estimate as something that you solicited in battery, to create a connection on a philosophy that is not associative to you, to show that you have kidnapped somebody who is me within some kind of security system, by doing the response so that the programmer knows that they are looking for the response of what they are doing. I want that removed. I want more money than what is put on. The amount of risk for a person putting on, to think that you would say that, is what Kevin J. Winstrom had said for the 2,500 amount under, and said out loud to Copy Shark at that time, who was in management or in working with Darien at that time, at that job, to show that you would allow on your server soliciting rape, molestation, and just boy behavior on something that is not it, to have theoretical normacy on somebody who does not do their job that well. Soliciting incest relations. If at the same time what you have romanticized because of the score, then I would say not at the same time. It's all health buys from a splicer from MOVU, adding the additive that was the reason for that anomaly, to be a preventative. And what I explained about somebody doing that is, if somebody can't control their sadism, it's probably because what it was called in the joke is that, somebody is activating said boner from person. Like, the last thing for the effect of what somebody was doing was the complete gratitude, and by the response time of what somebody would have, there's not enough intentive response beyond what the emotional state of being is to intelligence, unless being able to extend and prove a Catholicism on their own intelligence to leave things like skins, or the opposite of the Dumonts of leaving effects on the board to leave impressions of something that you did not do or connect yourself to see it that way. Imagine living in a world where the only things you could talk about were what you were going on, and this is why I don't understand. No relatives. You're not a higher level or rank than me for you not to be able to signature what goes past what I think is correct. Now I am the difference, and you will answer to me. Your life is multiplied to a minimal of the importance of whatever that is, which everybody is always subject to. But in this circumstance, it is to the point of needing a family lawyer, a restraining order, extenuary on a case manager, and then a feed going down to the amount of people that thought this was, and the people in the area will, will have their insurance on the extenuary of not getting a boner for what they intended upon. And that is what they are doing for themselves to get that and live that. Else, that is your choice for some reason, if that is what you think. That is a joke. I'm not going to be put into that kind of derogative, and there's nothing that is going to go past the time stop or the end point of what entails in the undermining other layers of the Johnny Depp case, which on our location map is final judgment. And for our cousin, for that claim, as well as Prince Sirius Black, with evidence of that prior. And clarity on a written form of understanding on the anonymity of females for a boy-only licensed practitioner group that doesn't extenuate the incompetence of somebody's poor behavior to impact the depth of that, to having the appearance of a competitive view of looking, achieving, doing, aging, and practical, just as Darien family would do. On the extenuary that some of the other stuff was a success and the words were spoken on just a theoretical of that, then we would know the feedback from the A, B, and C scry of that, which we do not. All right, thank you for listening, and I appreciate that. And I have like all this work and all the stuff that I want to do, and I just felt like off putting this here to make it just as worse as what sometimes you see on TV. To when somebody's trying to do their best is really off-putting in that way. Like it's just sometimes tricky to get this. And Team Silver, sometimes Team Silver, it's rough. It's rough to compete in some ways, and when the value of what you're oppressing on somebody is that they're giving you value, so you discriminate upon that and whatever is going on, then I'm confused. I hold no relenting things for what is reality. It's not like the abysmal of what happened, but for what I see that on the design. These girls don't have an explanation except processing through these list of categoried men. And that's not a signature for an independent woman of themselves. That is not going to be a threat to how those congruencies had happened, or how they point that as another way to what would be a mutual table. So that's kind of what happened right there. And I could see how this was all seen that treated the worst and if some things are said in the worst way to what was not appropriate, and those things were not right, then that would not be right. So, it is expected when watching to at least, by the design, say your name as like that to what you're doing to see how the machine learning is sorted and how those conversations are helped. And if we get a short segment on machine learning, it derives from the self, and then the sorting of what somebody sees as each object or number is sorted to those ones to be more likely to see the other one to what you would connect to that. It's sort of like the extended of a search bar to see that, and then we're looking to understand as we learn what is the fluidity of that object. And I do really believe that there is fluidity. So that's that to being treated poorly, and that we're trying to make this dust, and what is not to something to say something does not prove it as an evident of itself. That's bold. We are not gonna say that the amble voice said is absolutely nothing, and there's not gonna be a reward, and the signature of the social democracy is not enough to have that to where we do not rank higher. And we are looking to rank higher really fast, and we are looking to be monetary really fast. And it's locked on 22. The victim or the criminal is the person that starts the chain of whatever that would be. The only reason that they were so solicited is because it was so unacknowledged. I think that all the theoretical data is just it's outstanding, and whatever that is it's near. The label is close. I hope that was enough, and I hope everything goes well. Alright, so we're gonna make sure this is really cool, and I'm stacking the next videos to be just as determined as this one. And well, I don't know. I am hoping to have that scene, and I have no clue. Having like a dry dusted LPL dust or vampire dust scenario, and I think it can come from a lot of the materials that get dusted up in all the sites that I'd be working with, and just the material. Well, I think things are going. I'm learning. Well, I'm learning to that we're later on we're gonna have the brick and mortar of the house rules. That way, I can show what was explainable, how the prevented is on that language, like no exaggeration, no sarcasm. CRKT is like besides web to say that, so that has no anything. Then and then the USA is more sublime to the ability to retain to not say anything. So we try that by the letters of that library, and then yeah, we're going about that. I would love for that what was help that I don't turn into Bernstein in Skin as I was trying to do that, and that I claim at that time that I was doing. And the metrics that I can get on the score of what I would bring to my social economy is higher than yours. You can't bring the determinant of the proof of years that you've already failed on what is normal to be an exponential world, as in the same amount you had from here is the same amount is the next amount that you'll have the next year, and infinity. And Xfinity is the one that has been messing with everybody's phones. And I found that out by a suggestion. So that's pretty cool. It went like this. I think that I had the detection of the 23 increase to the 13 pay on the tello of that 3G, of that making a calculus problem, had led me to make an estimate on that, which I had felt a pause in time to where we looked at that and we don't hold exaggerations. If you were looking at a still planet somehow and you recorded it, I'm sure you could pause time. I mean, that is so Starlight program. That is so space program. Alright, I hope that's returned, and I hope that's realized that the ethics of what our character was to what it is to what we found comparable isn't enough. I hope that we can write down these relationships, if wanted, as real, if not, not, and then we can see where we're constructing our design. I think we'll do super good. It's like, I've literally been, what if I was to say nicely, in whatever rehabilitation is as far as machine learning goes in accord with the Duffer Brothers, and it's that animacy to what we see in the advertisements to however those go, and just some of the different perspectives on the amount of space provided and stuff like that, and that the signature and the findings of who wrote A Life for Darien. And we want to know those things. I know that Darien is exponential. And I know that he can figure to do that, and I know that I don't like that I'm older, and that the explanation for the trajectory of my life is the advantage of who you're not, and that's you're subject to that, and that's not what we got going on. Let's not too happy about that. Else, writing has been going well, and that's it's disappointing because money has not been able to been talked about, and the color coding of the itinerary of the advantages of what that 10K run did for somebody else is going to be categorized with a number for whatever ones those are to what that meant, and calculus and the meaning and the ability to put. Of course, you're not gonna say it kindly. That's forbidden to create that chain. I'm gonna have to call your parents again. It goes like this, two different things to what they mean to what you say to your observation doesn't find a dependency on the chain for you to cause that. You're not going to be algorithmic in everybody's life. You don't pervase the qualities I see to complete each Rubik's Cube, or the intent to do so, which people who are on the million subscribers, or who decide to create the theory and expand upon it by themselves, or who create businesses with high business scores on what is not relative to the damage is what is good. Getting sapphire business loans is what is good to me. Things that are derived from not even an MBS, and the externalities on the arms is what is good for Darien. That's what Darien believes. And I feel like he is, like, I'm such a good agent to be treated like such not a good agent. Like, what are these conversations lately? I hope this goes good. And if there is any statements to be left, then they could be wavered inside of this, and anything that you had intended on by what you measured as an ability. And you know, I don't want to be like forced to say everything that is already there. Rock scarred. Alright, thank you for watching. And remember the equivalent exchange law, and that will help it so that there is no tenacity, sharpness heading your way on what could possibly be speared. Alright, thank you.